everybody? Snake and the Goozer back again with another podcast video, episode 3.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about making games that appeal to an older audience on Roblox, aka games that are harder or games that pretty much aren't like simulators and shit.
Yeah, because that's what we do most of the time. Is make more difficult games.
Interesting games.
Yeah.
We make interesting games. There's not a lot.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Okay, well, don't worry about that.
You want to cut that out?
Nah, I'm drinking juice. And but anyways, well, let's see. What should we say about that? We like making those games, and why doesn't anyone else?
I feel like some people do.
Like who?
Isn't Robo working on like a Deadly Sins game or something?
He just released it like a week ago, and it's doing pretty well. Like 1,000 players on average on weekday. I don't know what it's like on weekends yet, but that's not necessarily hard. I mean, it is. It's definitely a more complex game than the simulator, of course.
Oh yeah.
But I mean things like what the classical community games would have been.
So community games that are like, well, do you feel like we make hard games for the public usually, or just for community?
Mainly for ourselves, but I don't even see myself making a public game ever again that's not aimed at an older audience.
Yeah, because like our internship game is focused on being more difficult and kind of getting the upper audience.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily hard stuff though. It's like we also got to think about like complex stuff. So front page game, well, I guess I don't want to say even front page, but popular games like ones that focus around more complex systems, like what the fuck is the name of it? It's the building game. It's not
I'm
the
going to
building
look
game.
on the front page real quick and see if I can find any difficult games.
Okay. I'm thinking of like Electric State. That's
Electric
not really,
State's popular.
Yeah, it's popular, or it used to be a lot more popular. It's pretty popular. It's not easy, but it's a role play in a sense, but also has a lot deeper elements.
That seems like it's for
Like
an older
building.
audience.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
And it took off, which is great.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's check popular and top rated. Well, you see, Rogue you could like argue is a difficult game because you just kind of get killed at spawn.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like that's
It's
not
not
really
complex.
geared towards. Yeah.
I mean, I've never played it for long periods of time, but I can assume it's not complex. And by complex, I mean like good. Not hand-holding, because so many things are too. People don't trust the players enough. Developers really don't trust players at all.
I feel like that's just a problem in the industry.
It is a problem with the industry.
Because as games have gotten more mainstream, or they've attempted to become more mainstream, developers have started thinking, or sometimes publishers will like influence developers to make the game more accessible.
Publishers definitely do that, but
Yeah.
then there's people that break away, like Obsidian, right?
Obsidian?
They just
Yeah.
broke away. With,
Obsidian just came out with Outer Worlds, and Outer Worlds is everything Bethesda won't do,
yeah.
which
And
is pretty awesome.
honestly, Steam games, indie games as a whole, don't usually have publishers, which really fixes that issue. I mean,
Indie games tend to be where you see like really cool, unique
that's
experiences.
because people take risks, and usually you can't make something risky that's not accessible. Like if you're going to make something interesting or different, there's no way to introduce that to players in a normal like industry standard way,
Right.
right? So I think that's why those are like that.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
I mean, we have Sekiro too. I mean, that's
Sekiro-
all at this point.
Yeah, but that's just like kind
It's
of...
not hand-holding. I mean, shit.
It's not hand-holding, but it's like more towards the Dark Souls formula, which I guess you could argue isn't a very hand-holdy game. It gives you like no tutorial essentially, just throws you in.
I don't even know if Sekiro had a tutorial. I don't remember, but it's been a while.
It kind of did, similar to the Dark Souls ones where you get put into an easier area.
Yeah.
Actually, that probably had more of a tutorial than any because it had the stuff you needed to do. It popped up on the screen and it like stopped your gameplay. Whereas
did?
with yeah,
I haven't
it
played,
wasn't
I haven't played the
messages.
beginning in a long time, so I don't know.
The messaging
Wow.
system in Dark Souls was used for their tutorial.
Yeah, which I think worked well.
Oh.
Let's see, what's some other games, particularly on Roblox?
I don't think Roblox really...
There's people experimenting with it.
There are, and I just feel like the site doesn't reward it right now.
Yeah.
And that's probably a big reason they don't do it, is because it's usually not very profitable. And
yeah, but I don't really like that argument too much, because if it's a good game, in my opinion, if it's a good game, it's going to get popular anyways.
I haven't seen, well, I mean, obviously there's a good bit of games on the front page that aren't very good, but they're still popular.
Rare, but here's the ones that stay on the front page, despite not being hard and not being aimed towards older people, they're still good games. So like Jailbreak, Night City, Adopt Me for what it's worth, all that stuff. Great games.
Yeah,
not the kind of games we're talking about. We want things aimed for older people, and mainly difficulty and complexity is what attracts older people.
I think that's something Jailbreak does kind of well, because like it does pull in younger kids, but like older kids can get something out of Jailbreak as well.
Yeah,
like,
but I feel like they get bored. Because,
they probably get bored, but
I mean, not even older kids. I mean, people like our age at this point.
Oh yeah. Well, you tend to find. I mean, there are people our age that play Roblox, but they're looking for usually the community games and like the experiences you can't even get anywhere else, really. Like some of the games we make on here, you really can't get on like Steam and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that Roblox has that other platforms, I guess you could say, don't have, and mainly it's the way the player base knows that it's Roblox and can kind of use it to its advantage, the way servers work and the way friends work and the way usernames work and all this stuff.
Right.
Really gives us some interesting things. And teleport service. I mean, it restricts us, but it makes us creative. It's interesting. Let's see. For upcoming developers or people working on games right now, because there's a lot of them. Now that we're all older and everyone who we know is starting to get into it a little bit, what would we tell them about how they can make their games complex and not fall into a bad loop where it's boring or too simple?
I feel definitely if they're like us, it's just telling them to like make something that they themselves would get actual enjoyment out of.
Yeah.
Versus like, I feel that when some people make games, especially like trying to go for front page, they stop thinking about what's fun and they start thinking about what's accessible and kind of what's addicting in a way, or what's going to like keep people playing versus like why they want to play in the first place.
That's a pretty bad pitfall that people run into, is they want to make it for the front page, and that's really dangerous.
Because I think that tends to like sacrifice like a lot of cool ideas.
It sacrifices cool ideas and creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, I know personally now, at this point, I don't think I'm ever gonna. Well, I might, but whenever I make, I don't ever want to make a game designed because I want it to be for the front page. Like, I don't want it to be super well, I mean, I do, but I don't want it, like, that's not the whole point of the game. Like a basic simulator kind of thing.
When you make a game for everybody, you're also making a game for nobody at all.
Yeah.
Because games have to appeal to certain kinds of people.
Yeah,
like,
you have to get a target audience.
Rogue's target audience is people who like difficult games or like RPGs, things like that. And that's its niche. That's what it goes for.
Yeah.
But some people, when they make things like simulators, they're like, "Oh, I gotta get everybody." And then, how many simulators do you think are like made on Roblox at one time?
How many what?
Like, how often do you think simulators are made on Roblox? I bet there's like tons of them out there that aren't on the front page.
Every day, people make them every day. They may not be good, but they make them every day.
So simulators getting to the top may be luck, or just
it is. It's kind of it's luck based. It's promotion based. It's timing based. And it is definitely luck based for sure, though.
But I'm also thinking that the people who already have successful simulators have a really easy time just making.
Yeah, they can make another one. Well, here's the thing. Okay, it's luck based to make a generic simulator. If you make an interesting simulator, which exists, and they're usually the ones that actually get kind of popular.
Bee-Swarm being like actually an example of a pretty solid one.
Yeah, it's just honestly that should be called Bee-Swarm game at this point, or B game.
Like it's a real game.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, I think a lot of people don't know what they want to make. I think that's a big issue, because think about it. Like, people look to what we make for inspiration sometimes, and they end up just making copies or heavily inspired things, which is fine. But I think people need to work on more ambitious and independent ideas.
I don't think they really do. Like that's the main thing about that is they have these experiences, at least with our games, that they're like, oh man, like old game that Snake made was One Piece Online, and people still talk about it in our community. And like, there's been so many copies because people are like, oh, I want to play OPO again.
Yeah.
But they really don't. If you played the game right now, you wouldn't have as much fun anymore because it's your nostalgia talking.
I think they just need to look at things like that and see if they wanted to recreate something like OPO. They need to look at what emotions it invoked in its players that made it or made them enjoy it and made them nostalgic for it, and try to recreate that in a modern setting. That's really it.
Instead of recreating the game, try and create something that gives you that feeling again.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I really think world design. Not a lot of people do creative world design. I mean, I don't. I struggle with creative world design. You like doing a lot.
Yeah.
But I like more concept-based things. Like, when I think of a game, I think of what are players going to do and then what setting is going to fit what they're doing. You think about the opposite, I think. You think about where they are and what gameplay can emerge from that.
It's a bit of a mix, but yeah, definitely like, when I think of a game, I think of the world first. And like, I make the world first because that makes it easier for me to make mechanics. Because once I have the world thought up, I think when I'm setting up the world, I set up like the rules that govern that world, and that helps me set up mechanics that would fit into that setting.
Yeah. So, I guess what people should really look for, if they want to make a game and get into developing, especially for the older and more complex audience that we have, they want to look at making a good world design that's interesting and original. I mean, it can be inspired, but you definitely want to take your own original routes on things. And also they want to look at, in my opinion, invoking some kind of emotion from players. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah, same.
When I think about like what I want to make, I start with the emotion first off. Like, I want them to experience this. So how do I make everything around that work, and then how do I balance everything around that?
Same. Sometimes I don't feel like I consciously think about it. I did with Rogue, but like with some of my new ideas, like I'm thinking of like ideas that do create the emotions I want to be experienced. Like Rogue, I wanted people to be like kind of afraid and kind of like go to one another for help.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to be kind of like a terrifying world to be in.
Yeah. I'm going to clarify emotions a little bit more. Just because I don't want people to get confused when I say it. I'm going to use NO2 as an example. So for NO2, there's no singular that emotion that I wanted. But the experience, it's more about the experience than the emotion. The experience I wanted people to have is people being aligned to a certain team, in this case villages, and then having a very strong dislike towards other teams, even though there's no real reason they should have it. And that's where pretty much every concept in the game came from.
And it worked. I mean, villages
didn't like villages, and I wanted to encourage that as much as possible. Because I think them hating other villages made them feel a stronger connection with their own villages.
Right. And it was similar to the show because that's how the show was. Like, the villages did not like each other.
Yeah. I mean, so, a lot of people make anime games, especially from our community, because that's what we made. So I think the new trend is anime inspired, because there's not a lot of great anime left that can have a full world. So it's probably smarter to just take inspiration from a game and then go with it from there. For example, I was thinking about a Demon Slayer game that I'm not going to make, but I was thinking about, Demon Slayer, it's okay, the world's okay, it's a great show, but I think you can take the base part of Demon Slayer that makes it interesting, and the fighting styles, and how there's demons that they fight and shit like that. You can take all of that and then put it in a much more open world.
Right.
And a much more game-friendly world, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Also, I feel like people are tending to shy away a little more from, like, straight anime games.
Yeah.
Because, like, the Carabros, Shinobi Origin, theirs is, like, it's not one-for-one Naruto. Like, it is Naruto, but a lot of the things are changed in it, so it's not. Which, I feel like more people are going to move towards because one, it saves you from copyright,
Yeah.
and that's huge.
That's not really a big issue with anime particularly, but yeah.
Yeah, usually those don't get taken down, but hey, you're saved if they do.
You can feel more confident about your work.
Yeah.
I think so.
But it also lets you insert your own ideas.
Yeah.
And like,
not worry about what other people think.
exactly. You could have like
Yep.
a One Piece game with lasers or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Just do
Any
whatever.
idea. I think One Piece has lasers.
You know, honestly, talking about this, I still don't want a Bleach game that's different than Bleach, though.
Why?
I don't know, because I feel like Bleach is really pure. Like, you can adjust Bleach to make it more gamey, but I wouldn't change the world. I wouldn't make a Bleach-inspired game because it just would be so close to Bleach that wouldn't make sense. Because a Bleach-inspired game would be people, or I guess dead people, that have swords, that have transformations. And everyone's just going to call it Bleach. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And at that point, you might as well... I mean, there's so much stuff in Bleach that you could do anyways. I mean, whenever I make a Bleach game, I'm never, like, worried about running out of ideas or wanting to add something.
Because Bleach has so much that you can just, like, work with.
Yeah. And there's no, like, arbitrary restrictions like Naruto has, where it's like, oh, well, they don't have the Kiki Genkai.
Right.
Um,
Everyone's Shikai does something different and crazy, and there's no real rules to it.
Same. One Piece, though, obviously, I definitely want changes to that, because that's what I'm doing.
Right.
But, yeah.
But back to our topic on this was, like, making games for older audiences. When you make games for older audiences, it's more about giving them a meaningful experience that they really can't get anywhere else. Like, that's how I feel like you pull them in.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I think too many people, when they're designing games, are really looking at things like progression and game loop, which are super important if you want a successful game. But if you focus too much on those, they'll get rid of everything else. Yeah.
That and creating like that sense of emotion, that comes down to a lot of things other than just the core loop. It's like the lighting is a big one. And just the
I love
lighting is huge.
I don't know if you've ever noticed, Nick, but I put a lot of fucking effort into lighting.
Yeah, lighting's huge.
Well, not in all my games, but in the ones that I like, community small stuff or stuff that I want to be like good, I have very different lighting. Like if you look at the lighting from NO2 and compare it to OPR, and if you compare that to fucking, I don't know, what else have I made recently? Even all the small projects. Templars, you compare the lighting from OPR, NO2, and Templars, they're amazingly
Not just the lighting, but the lighting, the fog, and
that's
the music.
That's what
all
I mean.
convey
As a whole ambient thing.
the tone. Like,
Yeah, the tone and
the tone of the game is amazing.
A lot of people don't experiment with it.
No, and it's so important because, like, I feel like all those three things are like are what hold like interesting games from just being Roblox.
Yeah, you know what the most interesting thing we made, or I mean, I kind of made it, but you were there for like a day and then we didn't do anything. Is the black and white game?
Yep.
The game that was completely in black and white, and we didn't use color correction to do it. The way it was done is everything was built in black and white, and it forced black and white only clothing, and then anything that was meaningful was colored.
Yeah.
That was an amazing atmosphere, but
exactly.
I'll use it again in the future, I'm sure. But
it creates visuals and music and all that. Like the themes, sound design. Sound design is so underrated.
I think a lot of people are afraid of lighting, because the best looking lighting, I mean, if you're just going to go aesthetically best looking, would be high contrast stuff, because that's what evokes the most emotions. But people are afraid of that because things are too dark and things are too bright. You just got to embrace that, man.
Well, I feel like people.
You should see what I did.
There's some horror games that use lighting like incredibly. I think it's called like The Seven Rings or something.
Yeah.
But that
those are
lighting
really
incredible.
No, their whole ambience is great. Well, that's okay, but it's a lot better than what a lot of people do. But especially in these like edgy anime inspired games that we're doing now, like you gotta focus on good lighting if you're trying to make an interesting world, of course.
Oh, so on the topic of, do you make the world first or do you make the mechanics first? Why do you make the mechanics first?
Because, like I said, I'm trying to evoke an emotion. So, like, I don't know, revenge, right? So I think of what's a game mechanic that could cause people to have revenge. And whatever that is, I'm like, okay, so it requires them killing them. So what can people kill each other with? Swords. Okay, where are swords common or where are they cool? medieval times, etc.
Okay. So, and then you make the world around those mechanics. Okay, that makes sense.
Not always, but that's like when I'm trying to think of something completely original. That's what I'll do. Also, it never leads to the error of, okay, I've made this whole world and I made all the mechanics in it, but there's really nothing to do.
That's true.
Which I don't know if it's a big problem. It's really hard to do that, or to like fall in that pit hole where there's nothing to do.
There's some games that do it though.
Yeah, there are games that do it, but what it can have is if you don't have a strong design on what people should be doing at all times, there might be a problem when it's all done where people like to do only this and don't like that at all, and even though you want them to like everything equally, or they like something way more than you think they should. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that and like why that ended up happening.
It's just if they're paying more attention to world design, but it's really hard. It's not that hard, but it's rare for that to ever happen, because for a game to get completed to the point where everything's done and you haven't addressed what they're going to be doing. I mean, I don't know if that's ever happened, but it can definitely demotivate you if you start doing it without noticing there's anything to do.
Oh,
because people want to play your game even when it's in development.
Here's a good topic: motivation to work on a game. Like sometimes it drops off, and what to do if like maybe your community is causing you to feel demotivated? Maybe they said whatever you did was
isolation.
Isolation.
Work on it in isolation.
I mean, if you're a developer,
that's what I think at least right now.
And if you're a developer and you're working on your game and maybe you put out an update that's not very good, and your community just lambasts you for it and just tears you apart, that'll pass. As long as you go and make like a good update afterwards, or you fix whatever you did, it'll get better.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any developers that need to hear that, but that's like...
Yeah.
It's important.
Mm-hmm. Let's see where we're at in time.
Barely even.
I mean, that's a really good lull in the conversation. We're only at 23 minutes here. But so we'll keep going for 10 more minutes. What was our fallback?
Our fallback? I don't think we could probably think of something real quick. That's been something that's been going on, like with game development lately. People
not finishing their games. We can keep talking about that.
People not finishing.
I'm not doing it. You're not doing it.
Hey, well,
Some people aren't doing it.
We're going over motivation, so.
Yeah, we're going about motivation.
So, the motivation to finish your game. I think finishing... Okay, so I feel like a lot of people make tech demos, or they get like along in a project, and then they lose motivation, they stop working on it. I feel like the most important thing to fixing that is finishing one game. If you can finish one game, you can finish another game. It's just getting that first one finished. No matter how garbage it is, no matter
that's honestly probably the best advice that you could give to someone who's trying to start deving, is finish one thing, because it's going to be shit, and everything else on the site's so amazing. How are you going to stand up to it? It doesn't matter.
You're not going to.
Even though you're going to release it and it's going to be shit and no one's going to play it, it doesn't matter, because you've probably learned a lot without even realizing it. I mean, and you've even built a very small community of the 2 people that played it.
Yeah, and if you make something interesting with like interesting ideas, but the scripting really isn't there yet or something, and it's still fun, like
people are going to remember that matter. Your friends are going to remember. They're going to be like, dude, like, I mean, that was a shit game, but that idea you had was like gold. Like, I remember that. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely just keep finishing. The hard problem is how to finish it. Something you
gotta kind of dig.
You gotta force yourself. Yeah. That's honestly the truth. And I learned that a long time ago, and it's still really hard to do. But you're never going to be motivated the whole time.
Yeah.
And if you're not motivated, you just have to do it anyways. You just have to. You have to start scheduling, planning out what you're going to do that day, and you're going to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
You get it done no matter what. Even if it sucks.
In my opinion, it helps a lot to do that. I read a lot of checklists, because even if I'm not motivated, I'm like, well, at least I can knock this checklist out. I'm going to assign these things that I'm going to do today. I'm going to do them. And,
Trello's really helped me with that. Like, just having...
I use Notepad.
Notepad's good, too. Notepad's good for, like...
Actually, I use the Sticky Notes program on Windows computers, if anyone wants to use that. It's very okay.
I use Notepads if I need to remember something that day, because I'll see that tab open, I'll be like, oh, what was it? What did I put that in?
Sticky Notes exist. Okay, Sticky Notes will. It's an app on the like Microsoft Store or whatever. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it'll always be on your desktop and it automatically starts up and it's very like low performance, so you don't have to worry about anything. And it just sits in the background. You can alt tab to it and write some stuff down and make more than one note and change the colors. It's okay. It's perfect for small things. I use it for checklists. I also use Discord a lot for checklists. If I'm working with someone, I'll DM them a checklist and then I'll edit the message later and get rid of the stuff that I finished.
Yeah. Just writing stuff down that you need to do really like helps.
I think so. I think personally it does.
Work things along. Yeah, definitely. Or if anyone's like mildly new to scripting, something that's always helped me, like if you have to make a complex system or it's complex for you, is like to kind of think it out first and maybe like write down in a notepad like how it like kind of the logic of it. Like let's say you need to put like a value in a character or something, or like put a folder in a character for some reason. You're like, oh, I have to do this, and then I loop through the character to check for something. Just the logic of it, and even though that's not actually the code, it'll help you write out the code because you'll just know what you're supposed to be doing at each step. I don't know, that helped me a lot, and no one really taught me to do that. It just thing I started doing.
Yeah, I wish I had advice for new scripters. I really don't.
Yeah,
I've been scripting for so long that I just can't even like imagine how you go about teaching or learning. I always just direct people to the wiki, but I don't know. There's tons of great resources. They just honestly you have to dedicate yourself because it's not going to be easy.
That's what I was just about to say.
It's not going to be easy.
On the note of people who don't know how to script at all and want to get into it, you have to actually like want to do it because a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to be a scripter. Like when I learn to script, I'll do this." Like if
just start learning how to try it. I mean, there's just people. I direct people to the wiki. There's great tutorials on the wiki, and even a lot of the wiki tutorials are actually really simple. And you might think they're too simple, and like, oh, well, why would I want to know how to make a ball bounce? You know, I kind of want to make a gun, which there is one on making a gun, but you want to learn them all anyways because it'll apply to other stuff in the future.
I never use the wiki tutorials.
This is for people that have nothing. They don't want to use YouTube or whatever. They just look at wiki. That's base what you can use.
I would say the best idea is like think of a simple idea. Like let's say I want to make a sword. All right, well look up like the steps on how to do that and like what you'll need for that. Oh, I need to touch the when the sword touches something. Things like that.
I mean, I think one day I'll do my scripting tutorials again. I'll redo them.
Yeah.
If anyone's wondering why I took those down. It was because I was swearing in them, and I would get comments from parents trying to teach their kids how to script, and they'd get kind of mad that I was swearing in them. So if I do them in the future, I'll use strong language, but not too strong, I guess, just for that reason alone.
Yeah. On the note of like people learning to script, if you've said when I learned to script like more than 3 times. Just sit down and start doing it.
Yeah, come on.
Like that's a big thing. Like people think in the future they'll magically learn, but really, you just gotta like sit down right now, stop whatever you're doing, stop listening to this podcast, and just open up Studio.
Yeah, but here you should find tutorials.
Yeah, they're definitely helpful.
Yeah.
You should put yours back up at some time. Or just edit out the swear words because they were good. They helped me.
I wonder if I can edit out the swears. I don't know. They were good. I think I did a great job. I took a lot of courses for teaching in college. That was my whole thing. So I'll probably do it again in the future whenever I like am bored because it was kind of a boredom thing. So
yeah.
And also because I don't think there's any other good tutorials out there because I always hate everything else everyone makes. I don't know.
You should tell them about the internship a little.
I mean, we're at time. We don't have to.
Man, just gonna leave them hanging like that.
Yeah.
Internship.
We can do that another one. We can do the next podcast is our thoughts on our internship.
Okay.
Yeah. That's going to stay in the recording, by the way. This is lazy. If anyone's wondering why this episode's lazy and there's not a lot of edits and there's not a lot of pauses, it's because we are at the internship right now and I'm using a laptop and I don't have any editing software. So deal with it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. See you later, guys. This was a good episode.
Bye.
And we'll get back to you sooner next time.